My daughter made a toast at her own wedding reception. She thanked her husband's family. She thanked her college friends. She thanked her boss for giving her time off. She did not mention me. Not once. I was sitting at a round table near the back of the ballroom. Table 9. I had driven 4 hours to get there. I was wearing the suit I bought the week before because she told me, and I remember the exact words, "Dad, please don't embarrass me." I sat with my hands folded on the white tablecloth. I didn't stand up. I didn't walk out. I didn't say a single word. But I want to tell you something. 3 weeks before that wedding, I had already made a decision. And I was just waiting for the right moment. My name is Robert. People call me Bob. I'm 61 years old. I wake up at 5:30 every morning. Not because I have to, that ship sailed when I retired. Just habit. 30 years of it. I make a pot of coffee. Black, no sugar. I take it out to the back deck and I sit in the old plastic chair that I keep meaning to replace and never do. I watch the sky go from dark blue to gray to light. In the fall, there are geese. I like the geese. I live in a small house in a mid-sized town in Ohio. 3 bedrooms. The roof is solid. The driveway needs resealing. The lawn is decent. I mow it myself on Saturday mornings. It's not the kind of house that makes anyone pull over and take a picture. But it's paid off. Completely. Has been for 9 years. I drive a 2011 Ford F-150. Gray. Over 200,000 miles on it. It runs fine. When people see that truck, they think they've figured something out about me. They haven't. I spent 30 years as a structural engineer. Bridges, mostly. A few large commercial builds. I retired at 58 after a herniated disc made the site visits painful and the timing felt right. Now I do occasional consulting, peer reviews, code compliance assessments for small firms. I work from the spare bedroom on a desktop computer that is definitely too old but works perfectly well. I don't post on social media. I don't go to fancy restaurants. I buy groceries at the same store I've used for 20 years. The woman at Register 4 knows I always buy the store brand coffee and she never judges me for it. From the outside, I understand exactly how I look. A retired man in a faded house. Old truck. Quiet life. The kind of guy people invite to Thanksgiving out of obligation and seat near the kids' table. The kind of man whose stories get listened to politely and then quietly redirected. I've known this for a while. And I've never felt the need to correct it. My daughter Ashley once told her boyfriend, the one before Marcus, that her dad was kind of basic. She said it on the phone while I was watching TV in the next room. The walls in that house were thin. I heard every word. I turned the TV up 1 notch. I never brought it up. That was 6 years ago. I told myself it was just how young people talk. Careless. Not malicious. But those little things, they stack up. Not like anger. More like receipts you toss in a drawer and forget about. Until one day you pull the drawer open and realize how many there are. I'm not a complicated man. I don't keep track of wrongs out loud. My late wife Carol used to say I had too much patience for your own good. She said it the way you say something when you're not sure if it's a compliment or a warning. I think about that a lot now. Thursday evenings I play cards with 3 guys from the neighborhood. Gary, Dennis, and Frank. We've been doing it for 11 years. Nobody talks about money. Nobody tries to impress anyone. Those 2 hours are probably the most honest part of my week. I walk after dinner most nights. Half a mile, sometimes more. Quiet streets, quiet sky. Other people's lives flickering through their windows. That's my life. I thought my kids understood it. Maybe even appreciated it. I was wrong about that. I didn't know exactly how wrong until the wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox, and when I opened it, my name was printed in the general guest section. Not with the family. With the guests. I read it twice. Set it on the kitchen counter. Poured myself more coffee. That evening I called my old friend Dale. It was a long conversation. Ashley is my younger child. She's 32. She's sharp, driven, the kind of woman who has a 5-year plan and actually follows it. She got her mother's confidence and her mother's ability to walk into a room and immediately know who matters and who doesn't. She married Marcus last April. His family is from Connecticut. His father runs a financial advisory firm. His mother volunteers at an art museum and has the posture of someone who grew up being photographed. They are not bad people. They are just people who have always assumed a certain baseline about what life should look like, and I don't fit comfortably inside that picture. Marcus is polite to me. The kind of polite that's more performance than feeling. He shakes my hand firmly, makes eye contact, asks about the drive. But he's never asked me a second question about anything I've said. He listens to the first answer and then moves on. Like he's checking a box. My son Tyler is 35. He lives in Austin. We talk maybe once a month. Good conversations, but short ones. He has a busy life. I don't fault him for that. What I didn't fully see, what crept in slowly over the years, was that I had been quietly repositioned in my own family. Not kicked out. Nothing dramatic. Just moved to the edges. It started after Carol died. 6 years ago. Maybe it started before, and I just didn't notice until she was gone, and there was no one left who looked at me like I was the main character in my own story. Ashley stepped in after the funeral. Organized everything. She's good at that. Efficient. I appreciated it at the time. But somewhere along the way, efficient became authoritative. She started making family decisions and telling me about them afterward. Holiday plans. What to do with Carol's things. Whether I should think about a smaller place. She always said it gently. Reasonably. Like she was doing me a favor. I started to notice the shape of it around 2 years ago. At family dinners, which now happened at Marcus's parents' house, not mine, I would say something and there would be this brief pause. Then the conversation would continue, slightly adjusted, as if I'd said something that required quiet correction. Marcus's father, Richard, is a good talker. Confident. The kind of man who fills a room with his certainty. At one dinner I mentioned a bridge project I'd reviewed, a consultation for a county infrastructure bid. Significant scope. He asked what that kind of work paid. I told him a number. He nodded once. Smiled. Changed the subject. Later I heard him tell Marcus in the kitchen, Ashley's dad seems like a good guy. Salt of the earth type. Salt of the earth. Said warmly. Like a compliment. But I knew what it meant. It meant, harmless, irrelevant, not in the game. Marcus laughed and said, yeah, he's happy out there in Ohio. That's all he needs. I was in the hallway. I walked back to the dining room and helped myself to more bread. The thing that actually stayed with me wasn't the conversation. It was Tyler's voice. He had been in that kitchen too. He didn't correct them. He just said, yeah. That yeah sat in my chest for a long time. I started paying closer attention after that. Small things. The way Ashley answered questions about money with, we've taken care of it, even when I had been the one who had. The time she told her friend her down payment came from saving aggressively, 4 months after I'd wired her $22,000. She never asked me to keep it quiet. She just never mentioned it. Once, at a birthday dinner, she was telling a story about her childhood and she said, we didn't have a lot growing up, but we made it work. I sat across from her. We had not struggled. Not once. I folded my napkin in my lap and didn't say anything. But I looked at her for just a moment longer than usual. She looked away first. The wedding planning started 8 months before the date. I figured I'd be part of it. Not every conversation. I'm not that kind of dad. But I expected a phone call. A visit. Something. What I got were updates. Forwarded emails. Group texts where my responses got a thumbs-up reaction and were scrolled past. One phone call from Ashley where she told me the venue, the date, the color scheme, all past tense, all decided, and ended with, "You're going to love it, Dad. You just come and enjoy yourself. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about anything." I was not asked about the guest list. I was not asked about the rehearsal dinner. I was not asked to be involved in any of it. I found out the ceremony time from a text Tyler forwarded to me. I called Ashley the next evening. She picked up on the second ring, bright voice, already in motion. "Dad, did you get all the details? Isn't it exciting?" "I got them," I said. "When can we sit down and actually talk through everything?" Of course. It's just crazy right now. But honestly, everything is handled. You just relax, okay? Show up and have a great time. That's all you need to do. Show up and have a great time." I held the phone for a moment after she hung up. The kitchen was very quiet. Show up and have a great time. I walked out to the back deck. Sat in the old plastic chair. The sky was already dark. I am her father. I drove her to her first day of high school. I sat in the waiting room when she had her wisdom teeth out. I co-signed her first apartment lease and didn't mention it again. I sent money when she asked and money when she didn't, because I could see when she needed it. And now I was being managed. Gently. Carefully. Like a variable someone has already accounted for and set aside. The following weekend, I drove up to see Dale. He's been my closest friend for 27 years. He was my foreman on a major bridge project back in the 90s. He knows every version of my life. I sat in his kitchen and told him about the invitation. The phone call. The feeling I couldn't quite name. He poured us both some coffee. Then he said, "Bob, does Ashley know about the trust account?" I said, "No." He said, "Does she know about the property?" I said, "No." He nodded slowly. We sat there without talking for a while. Just the sound of the coffee maker finishing its cycle. Here is what my children didn't know about me. Carol and I made a decision early in our marriage. We agreed that whatever we built, we would keep it private. Not secretive. Not dishonest. Just quiet. Neither of us trusted the way money changed relationships. We'd both seen it happen to families around us, the subtle competitions, the expectations, the entitlement that crept in when people knew too much. So we kept things to ourselves. After Carol died, I kept that same habit. I live simply. That is a choice, not a limitation. The F-150 runs fine and I like it. The house is modest and paid off completely. The lawn is something I do myself because I like the hour outside, not because I can't afford someone else to do it. Over 30 years of work, I saved carefully. Invested slowly but consistently. Carol's parents had left her a piece of land in rural Indiana, farmland that we held onto for years. When I finally sold it, 5 years ago, the number surprised even me. The consulting work isn't retirement hobby money. 2 years ago, a firm I had done peer review work for brought me in as a senior technical advisor on a state infrastructure project. A real one. The kind with federal oversight and a multi-year contract. It was quiet, confidential work. I didn't talk about it because there was nothing to prove. I had also, about 6 months ago, had a full portfolio review with a private wealth advisor in Columbus. The kind of office where they offer you real coffee and someone gets your coat. I don't own a vacation home. I don't wear a Rolex. I don't fly business class. But what I had built, quietly, over decades, was real. And 3 weeks before the wedding, I had a long meeting with my attorney. A woman named Patricia who has handled my affairs for 14 years. She is precise, unhurried, and completely unimpressed by sentiment. We made some adjustments. I drove home afterward, stopped at the grocery store, bought the store brand coffee, said hello to the woman at register 4. Went home. Sat on the back deck. Watched the geese for a while. There is a particular kind of freedom in being underestimated. You carry no image. You defend nothing. People decide who you are and they put you at table 9 and they hand you a glass of wedding champagne and they tell you to enjoy yourself. And you smile. And you wait. The wedding was on a Saturday in April. The venue was a restored ballroom in a hotel about 40 minutes from where Marcus's parents lived. High ceilings. Chandeliers. White tablecloths and centerpieces with flowers I didn't know the names of. The kind of room that photographs well. I drove up the night before and stayed at a Holiday Inn down the road. I didn't want to impose on anyone's pre-wedding plans. The morning of, I put on my new suit. Dark navy. I'd gone to a proper men's store and had it fitted. A young guy named Joel did the alterations and said it looked sharp. I believed him. I arrived on time. Alone. I stood at the entrance for a moment, waiting to be greeted or directed. No one came. I found a young woman with a clipboard near the door. She found my name, checked it off, and pointed me toward the ballroom. Table 9, she said. Round table. Rear left of the room. Near the door to the service corridor. The table card had my name on it. I sat down and introduced myself to the other guests, a couple from Marcus's extended family who hadn't met Ashley before, and an older woman who had worked with Marcus's mother on a charity committee. None of them knew who I was until I told them. There was a small pause when I said I was the bride's father. Oh, the woman said. I thought, someone mentioned you might be coming from far away and might be late. Ohio, I said. But I left early. No traffic. I smiled. Poured water for the table. The ceremony was beautiful. I will say that, honestly. Ashley looked more like her mother than I had ever seen. The moment she came through those doors, something in my chest opened in a way I wasn't prepared for. Whatever complicated things I was carrying, they stepped back for that part. The reception started. Dinner. Speeches. Marcus's father, Richard, gave a toast. Long, funny, full of charm. He talked about Marcus's childhood, his ambitions, his kindness. He welcomed Ashley into the family with words that were genuinely warm. Tyler gave a toast. A little nervous, a little sweet. He talked about growing up with Ashley. He didn't mention me, but that didn't surprise me. He was focused on her, and it was her day. Ashley's college roommate gave a speech. Then the DJ moved things along. No one asked me to speak. I had understood by then that this too had been a decision. Then came the moment. Around 9 o'clock, as dinner plates were being cleared, Ashley stood up and clinked her glass. Informal toast. The room quieted. She thanked the venue staff. She thanked the florist. She thanked her bridesmaids by name, one by one, with a story for each. She thanked Marcus's parents for welcoming her like a daughter from day one. Then she looked out at the room and said, "And thank you all for being here to share this with us. It means the world." That was it. She sat down. The room clapped. I clapped. I sat with my hands in my lap afterward and I looked at the centerpiece on the table. White flowers. Very elegant. A few minutes later, Marcus's Uncle Gerald, a big, loud man who had clearly been enjoying the open bar, stood at his table across the room and lifted his glass in my direction. "To Bob," he called out. "The father of the bride. You raised one hell of a daughter, sir." A few heads turned, including Ashley's, and I watched her face. She smiled, that specific, managed smile she uses when something is happening that she didn't plan for. She looked at me from across the room and said, loudly enough for 2 tables to hear, "Dad is just happy to be here. He keeps a simple life up in Ohio, but that's always been enough for him." She said it warmly, affectionately, even. But it landed the way those things land. Gerald cheered and drank. The moment passed. Dinner resumed. But the couple at my table exchanged a look. A small one. And Ashley's childhood friend Melissa, who had known me since Ashley was in the 7th grade, looked down at her plate. I took a sip of water. Somewhere in my chest, a question I had been carrying for months resolved itself. A quiet uncertainty about whether I was reading things correctly, whether the distance was just life, just the natural growing up of children, answered itself in 9 words. He keeps a simple life up in Ohio, but that's always been enough for him. Not cruel. She'd be genuinely hurt if someone called it cruel. But it was something. And I had heard it. I spent the rest of the evening pleasantly. I danced once, with the older woman from Marcus's mother's charity committee. I congratulated Marcus's parents. I found Ashley near the end of the night and hugged her and told her she looked beautiful. She hugged me back. She smelled like her mother's perfume and it caught me off guard. "I love you, Dad," she said. "I love you too," I said. And I meant it. But later, in the car driving back to the Holiday Inn, I thought about Patricia, my attorney, and the meeting we'd had 3 weeks earlier. And I thought, all right. The moment had come. 2 weeks after the wedding, I drove to Columbus. I parked in the garage off High Street, walked 2 blocks, took the elevator to the 14th floor. Patricia's office overlooks the Scioto River. She has a way of listening to you that makes you feel like nothing you say will surprise her. In 14 years, I have never actually managed to surprise her. We finalized the trust restructuring we had begun a month earlier. Then I made 2 phone calls from the parking garage. The first was to Tyler. I told him I'd love to have him visit sometime soon. He said he'd try to come the following month. I said, no rush. Take your time. The second was to Ashley. She picked up on the second ring. She sounded like she was at home, relaxed. The wedding glow. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I said. "I just wanted to let you know I met with my attorney today. Patricia. We finalized some things." A pause. Short but there. "Oh. Is something wrong?" "Not at all. Just routine matters I'd been putting off. I've restructured some of my financial arrangements, consolidated the property holdings into a trust, updated the investment accounts, that kind of thing." Silence. "I also finalized the sale of the land parcel in Indiana. That closed last month." More silence. "A different kind. The trust is managed through a private firm in Columbus," I said. "Dale is named as co-trustee. I'll walk you and Tyler through the full details when I see you both in person." "Dad." Her voice had changed. The ease was still there, but under it, something more alert. "How much are we? I mean, what does the trust actually cover?" "Everything," I said. Quietly. No drama in it. She didn't speak for a moment. "The property revenue, the portfolio, the consulting income, it's all been properly structured. I should have done it years ago. Your mother would have wanted things organized. Why didn't you ever tell us?" Her voice was softer now. "About any of this?" I thought about that genuinely before I answered. "You never asked," I said. Simply. No edge in it. Just the plain truth. "Dad." She took a breath. "We had no idea." "I know," I said. "I've always liked things quiet." I could feel her on the other end of the line. Replaying things. Recalculating. Setting old images next to new information and watching them not quite line up the way she expected. "Are you angry with us?" she asked. Quietly. I considered the question the same way I consider most things. "No," I said. And I meant it. "I just think it's time we all understood each other a little better. Don't you?" Tyler called me the next morning. He didn't mention the trust directly. He said he wanted to come out to Ohio the following weekend if that was okay. I said of course. I'd get the guest room ready. He paused before he hung up. "Dad. What Ashley said at the wedding, about you keeping a simple life." "I remember," I said. "That wasn't right. I was there, and I didn't say anything. I didn't fill the silence. I let him sit in it for a moment." "We'll talk when you come," I said. I'll make that chili you like. Ashley and Marcus came the week after Tyler. They drove in from Connecticut together, which was different. Nobody asked them to coordinate. Marcus sat in my living room and I watched him look at it differently. At the bookshelves. At the framed project photos on the wall, aerial shots of bridges I'd worked on, a group photo from a state infrastructure ceremony, a commendation from the Ohio DOT in a simple frame that had just always been there. He looked at it the way people look at things when they realize they've been seeing without actually looking. He was polite. A different kind of polite. The kind with weight underneath it. Ashley sat next to me on the couch after lunch and didn't say much for a while. Just sat. Something between us had shifted, not broken, not fixed exactly, but honest in a new way. Like a window painted shut that finally opened. I made coffee for everyone. Black, no sugar. A few months have passed now. I still wake up at 5:30. Coffee on the back deck. The geese came back last week. The lawn looks good. I don't bring up the wedding. I don't need to. Ashley knows what that evening revealed. Not just about her, but about the space that had grown between us without either of us naming it. She carries that. That's enough. What I keep coming back to is this. Dignity doesn't need an audience. I spent years being quietly underestimated by the people I loved most. And I never once felt the urge to correct them loudly. Because I knew what I had built. I knew who I was. That knowledge doesn't live in what other people see. It doesn't disappear because someone seats you near the service corridor. Carol used to say, "Still water runs deep, Bobby." She was right. She usually was. I think about the years ahead. More Thursday evenings with Gary and Dennis and Frank. More walks after dinner. Maybe a long road trip somewhere I haven't been. Turns out the budget can handle it. Marcus stopped by alone one afternoon last month. Sat across from me at the kitchen table. He said, "Bob, I think I had you figured wrong." I poured him a cup of coffee. "Yeah," I said. "Most people do." And we sat together in the quiet.